Hello everyone. So today we will actually continue the second part of burn, and in this part we will start from the danger signs of airway burn. So what are the danger signs of airway burn? The first sign is that this simply says that when we will know that the airway may be burnt. So if the burn involves the head, neck and face, so burn that involves head, neck and face. So if the burn involves head, neck and face, then we should know that airway may be involved. And if the airway may be involved, then such burn is dangerous burn. Second, if there is a burning, or we can say singing of nasal hairs. Simply we can say if there is a singing or burning of the nasal hairs, as we can see in this picture, then there is a burnt or singing nasal hair. So that also indicates that there is a airway burn. The third is if there is a carbonaceous deposit of sputum. So carbonaceous, it means black colored sputum, black deposit sputum. Or we can say that if there is a black colored sputum, you should know that there is a airway burn. The fourth point is hoarseness of voice. If the patient has hoarseness of voice, it is also indicate that the airway may be burnt. And the fifth, that history of burn in a closed room. If there is a burn and the burn take place in a closed room, then in such a condition airway may be burned. And if the airway may be burned, that burn is a dangerous burn. So what is the main reason that we are focusing on the airway burn? So the main thing that usually in the airway burn there is an event that is gonna happening, that is laryngeal edema. So larynx is a voice box and it is the initial part of the airway, and this part when get edematous, then the person will feel difficulty in the breathing. So laryngeal edema will result in the breathing difficulties, and due to which the person may result into death. So the end result is death. So the end result in the laryngeal edema is death. If you will not cure the laryngeal edema, or if you will not find out the laryngeal edema in the early stages, then it will ultimately cause death. So usually in the early stage, why it is important to actually diagnose the laryngeal edema in the early stage? As in the early stage, if there is the presence of laryngeal edema, then we can do the elective intubation. So in this picture you can see the intubation. And if there is a delayed, let's suppose that the patient reaches to you and he has already the very huge laryngeal edema, then there will be difficulty for the intubation also. So elective intubation is done only in the early stage of edema. It can't be done in the late stage. In the late stage, the intubation cannot be performed. So what we will do in the late stage? So in the late stage of laryngeal edema, we will actually perform the cricothyroidotomy. So in this picture, you can easily see the cricothyroidotomy. Now when to give the fluid resuscitation in the burns? So simply, there are the two type of patient usually present. They are children and the adults. So if in the children, if the burn involve greater than 10% of total body surface area, if the burn involve greater than 10% of the total body surface area in the children, and in the adult, if the burn involve greater than 50% of total body surface area, then in such condition the patient will suffer hypovolemia. And when the patient suffer hypovolemia, then we need the fluid resuscitation. Then fluid resuscitation is needed. Now let's suppose we are planning to give the fluid resuscitation to the patient, and for the fluid resuscitation we need to have the venous access. So for venous access, which of the veins are actually preferred? So you should remember that the veins of hand, especially the antecubital vein, the veins of hand and the antecubital vein, as you can see in this picture, the veins of hand and the antecubital vein are usually preferred. But if they are not able to access, if you are not able to access the vein of hand and the antecubital vein, then you should go in the leg area, and in the leg area you should access the long saphenous vein. Long saphenous vein. So this is very important. So in this picture you can also see the long saphenous vein. So prefer first the veins of hand or the antecubital vein, and if it is difficult to access these veins, then you should go for the long saphenous vein. Now, what is the actually fluid of choice that we will select for the resuscitation? So for the resuscitation in the patient of bond, which type of fluid is actually selected? So the fluid that is selected is, answer is Ringer's lactate. Answer is Ringer's lactate. So the Ringer's lactate is fluid of choice in case of bond. Now the question is that why Ringer lactate or the Hartmann solution is preferred in the case of bond? The reason is here that the composition of the Ringer lactate resemble of the normal body physiological fluids, or we can say that this Ringer lactate is actually isotonic fluid. This Ringer lactate is actually isotonic fluid. So the osmotic pressure inside the body and the osmotic pressure that will be created by the fluid will be almost same. And another thing is that this Ringer lactate contain a agent known as lactate. So this lactate will actually buffer the metabolic acidosis that can occur in the early post-burn phase. So after the burns, in some patient, metabolic acidosis can occur in the early post-burn phase. So for that metabolic acid, to tackle that metabolic acidosis, the lactate will work, and so it will also actually resuscitate the patient. So it will also maintain the fluid, and it will also actually correct the metabolic acidosis, or it will prevent the metabolic acidosis. That is why Ringer lactate is a preferred solution in case of the burns. Now you should also take one more concept that usually in any burn, in first 24 to 48 hours, we will usually give, in any patient we will give the Ringer lactate, in any patient, either they are children or they are adults. But in case of the children, after the 24 to 48 hours, for maintenance, so for maintenance, fluid of choice in burn is actually not Ringer lactate, is actually dextrose normal saline. Dextrose normal saline. So why in children, for the maintenance we will give the, see, for the loading resuscitation we will give the Ringer lactate, but for the maintenance we will, in the children especially, in adult we will, in adult actually either for the early resuscitation or for the maintenance, in both cases we will give the Ringer lactate. But in the children, for the early resuscitation we will give the Ringer lactate, but for the maintenance the fluid of choice is dextrose normal saline. The reason being here is that in the children they have the low glycogen stores. So children have low glycogen stores. As the children have the low glycogen stores, so we try to give such a fluid in which they will also get the glucose, and the best fluid that they will get glucose as well as the electrolytes is dextrose normal saline, that is known as DNS. So the choice of fluid for the maintenance in case of burn in the children is DNS. And let us suppose that there is a patient who has burned, and now due to hypovolemia the patient has gone into shock. Due to the hypovolemia the patient has gone into shock, or due to the any reason if the patient has gone into shock in case of the burn, so we will call this condition burn shock. So for burn shock we will give actually, initially we will give the intravenous Ringer's lactate. So initially in such a patient who has burned and now into shock, initially we will give the Ringer's lactate intravenously. And if the BP does not improve, if the blood pressure doesn't improve, so if the BP does not improve in though we are giving the Ringer lactate, it indicates that in this patient actually the fluid is extravasating from the vascular compartments or from the blood vessels. So the fluid is actually leaking outside the compartment in the patient of the burn shock. So we need to give such fluid which has larger oncotic pressure, so that they will remain in the blood vessel, they will not extravasate. So in such a case, such fluid is needed which will not extravasate, that they will not go outside the blood vessels. And such fluid are especially the fluid having the larger oncotic pressure. So they are the fluid having larger oncotic means osmotic pressure, and such type of fluid is actually hypertonic saline. So that is why in the case of the burn shock hypertonic saline is preferred over the Ringer lactate. So this is one of the thing that we should consider in case of the burn, that if there is a burn shock, then do not give the ringer lactate. It is better to give the hypertonic saline in case of the burn shock. Now it is a very important topic, that is the calculation of fluid requirement. So this calculation of fluid requirement will be asked in your exams, will be asked in your entrance exam as well as the theory exams of surgery, or it will be very useful in case of the emergency department. So let's study. So we have the first formula for the calculation of fluid requirement, that is a Parkland formula. This formula will actually tell you about the fluid requirement that is required in the first 24 hours. So first, in the first 24 hours of burn, what amount of fluid is required will tell you, will be calculated by the Parkland formula. So in this formula, we have here formula that's 4 ml into body weight into kg and percentage of the burn surface area. And 24 hours for the fluid requirement is for the first 24 hours. So time starts from patient get burned. So when the patient get burned, from that time the time start, not when the patient came to the hospital. So you should consider this thing in the mind. Now let's take a case, then we will actually calculate that what is the amount of fluid requirement. Let us suppose there is a case. Let us suppose there is a 50 kg female and is having the 50% of burn in body, 50% of the burn in the body. Then what is the fluid requirement in the first 24 hours? So in this case, we have the formula 4 into the body weight is 50, so 50 into percentage burn surface area, that is 50. So 50%, so 50, so 50. So this is actually the formula, and according to this formula, we have now ml. That is whatever result will come, that will be in the ml. So this is 10,000 ml, that is equal to 10 liter. So we will give actually the 10, we will give in total of the 10 liter in the first 24 hour, and the time is calculated from the time that when the patient get burned. Okay, so we will give the 10 liter in first 24 hour. So this 10 liter is also distributed in such a way that, see, now the 10 liter, so total fluid that should be given in the first 24 hours is 10 liter. So this 10 liter is given in such a way that the half of the 10 liter, that is almost 5 liter, is given in the first 8 hours. So first 8 hours we will give the 5 liter. So half of the calculated amount is given in the first 8 hours, and the rest 5 liter is given in the next 16 hours. So we have now that the half of the fluid is given in the first 8 hours, and the next half is given in the next 16 hours. So in such a way, the fluid is given in the first 24 hours. Now, usually every student studies the Parkland formula, and they will always calculate the fluid that is required for the first 24 hours, or we can say the first day. In exam, you may be asked that what is the fluid requirement in the second day. So calculate fluid requirement for second day. So what is the fluid requirement in the second day? So the answer is 40 to 60% of the first day. 40 to 60% of the first day. So in average we can say that 50% of first day. So in first day we gave almost 10 liter in first day. Let's suppose in previous case, by seeing the previous case, in first day or in first 24 hours we gave the 10 liter. So in the second day we will give 50% of 10 liter. So 50% of 10 liter is that actually is 5 liter. That is 5 liter. And now this 5 liter we will give, so in next day we will give only 5 liter. So this is actually amount of fluid that is given in the second day. So for the calculation of the fluid requirement, there is another formula we have, that is according to the ATLS modification. What the ATLS actually modified the Parkland formula according to the age. So let's see the formula of the ATLS. So in the adult patient and in children above or equal to 14 years, the formula was 2 ml into body weight in kg into percentage of burnt surface area. This was for the adult and in children greater than 14 years of age, and in children less than 14 years the formula is 3 ml into body weight in kg into percentage of burnt surface area. So this formula was modified. So I mean the modified formula was given by ATLS, and some doctors may follow the ATLS rule, but usually the Parkland formula is famous. And note, in the children, you should add the sugar containing solution. You should add the sugar containing solution, as I have already told you that they are given basically usually the dextrose normal saline, as the children have low glycogen stores. And in ATLS modification, they also talked about the electrical injury. So sometimes the burn may be due to the electrical injury, and in that case, the fluid requirement is calculated by 4 ml into body weight in kg, into percentage of burnt surface area. And in electrical injury, regardless of age, so it is regardless of age, either they are children or they are the adults, the formula will be same in case of the electrical injury. So the fluid requirement in case of the electrical burns, or you can say electrical burns, is same as the Parkland formula. There was a new formula given for the pediatric patients. So for the pediatric patients, a new formula was given that was known as Galveston formula. So according to this formula, actually this formula says that 500 ml per meter square of burnt surface area. So this formula says that the fluid requirement is actually calculated by 500 ml per meter square of the burnt surface area plus 1500 ml per meter square of total body surface area. So in this way, in pediatric patient, the formula in the pediatric patient, the fluid requirement is calculated. But yes, these are the formulas which are not in so much use. The most used formula is actually the Parkland formula. Now, it is not important only to give the fluid. It is also important to monitor the fluid resuscitation. That whatever fluid we are giving, that is reaching to all the vital organ or not. So to monitor that fluid resuscitation, we have some indicators. So the best indicator is actually urine output. So by monitoring the urine output, you can understand that there is a tissue perfusion is present or not. So in the adult, the minimum urine output should be 1.0 ml per minute. Should be 1 ml per minute, and in the children it should be 0.5 to 1 ml per minute. So if the urine output is less than these values, then you should know that the fluid, you are giving the fluid, but that fluid is not perfusing the tissue. So basically the urine output is an indicator of the tissue perfusion. So if you have the normal urine output or in this range, then you should know that the fluid is actually reaching the tissues, and this is the condition that we want to achieve. Now let's study the determination of the burnt surface area. So how to calculate that what surface area of the body has been burnt? So how to determine that? So Alfred Russel Wallace gave the rule of 9, and by this rule of 9, it became easy to calculate the burnt surface area. So in adult there is a in this way we will calculate. So in the face region, so for the whole face region, if the face has been burnt, then 9% of the area has been burnt is taken into account. And for the chest also there is a 9%. So either in the front or in the back, of the chest, both are actually 9%. Similarly in the abdomen, this is also taken 9%. So in the front or in the back, both are taken 9%. And in the whole hand is taken as 9%. Similarly, this is also taken as 9%. And the legs are taken as the whole leg is taken into 18%. The whole leg is taken into 18%. So, and the groin area is basically where the genitals organ are located, as taken as the 1% of the surface area. So in this way, the face is 9%, the hands and the forearm is collectively 9%. Similarly, the chest is also 9%, the either front or the back. Similarly, the abdomen is also 9%, either front or the back, and the genital area is 1%, and the whole leg is 18%. So this is actually the rule of 9. Now in case of the children, the rule of 9 is not so much accurate. Here the face is taken as 18% of the area. So the face is taken into 18%. The hands and including the forearm are 9% here also. In the adult, the face was only 9%, but in children the face will be 18%. and here the chest is 9% front and back, and the abdomen is also 9% front and back, and the legs are now not 18%, the legs are now 14% both sides. So this leg will not follow the rule of 9, so we can say that the rule of 9 is basically not accurate in case of